5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good day, goodbye, as Chris would say. I've got to keep the tradition going, haven't I? This is LTID TV. This is the preview show. And after, yesterday's debacle, shall we say, let's hope we've got something fun to talk about. He has just disappeared. But hopefully I will be joined back again by a Preston fan, Ollie, in a minute or two. Here he is. He's doing his magic act. He has returned to us from beyond. He has returned. I'm going to bring him in a minute. But how are we all feeling? It's only Mickey Mouse Cup anyway. Who wanted Sunderland away? I didn't. I'm not bitter about it. I'm not blaming anybody. I hope we are all well. Get your comments in down below and join in. And without further ado, let's bring in tonight's guest. It is Ollie. Ollie, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Brad. I had a few technical issues there, so I don't know why you kicked me out. But yeah, all good. Thank you. Yourself? Yeah,
I'm all good, mate. I thought your second job was a magician, and you were showing me your disappearing act before we went live.
Yeah, well, I picked the right time to do it, didn't I?
You certainly did, because you gave me a fright. It definitely worked. It worked. I mean, you're a Preston fan. Started with a draw against QPR. How was the feeling? You know, you talked backstage. You talked about the Carabao Cup. Unlike us, you managed to scrape through, but it was a bit of a dull task for you to get through that, wasn't it?
Yeah, QPR, it was probably a game of two halves, actually. We'll get on to, obviously, Daniel Iverson, but he was instrumental in, obviously, us scoring our goal, if you've seen it, where his distribution went all the way over to Osmajic and he dinked it over the keeper. So, yeah, we were terrible in the first half against QPR, much better in the second half. But then, as you mentioned, Barrow, it was... probably up there with one of the worst footballing games I ever watched. I was very tempted to turn off after about 50 minutes. And unfortunately, they decided to nod one in the back of the net. So you can't complain, though. We're through to the next round of the FA Cup, of the Carabao Cup, I should say, against Wrexham at home. So I'm sure that's going to be another circus that turns up at Deepdale. But yeah, can't complain into the next round of the Cup. Just hope for a bit more, quality in our games coming forward.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just got to get through, especially these early rounds. I believe we went on quite a bit of a run in it the last time we was in the Championship, and we went on a decent run in the FA Cup as well. Is it ideal in the early rounds to kind of go on a bit of a run, do you feel, with pre-season and getting that match fitness? Because you mentioned backstage that you made 5 changes, not many wholesale changes. Leicester made, I think it was 7. I think we ended up making 8 academy players. Yesterday, you could see the difference in how both teams went about it. Is it good, and is it kind of like one of them, well, if we go through, brilliant. If not, it's an extra game of match fitness. How do you see it as a Preston fan early doors?
I think it's instrumental to Preston, really. We're not the most outlandish team in terms of the league. We probably know where or whereabouts we're going to be going into every season. So I think the cup's a real thing to probably grab onto as a fan. So for me, I think it's vital to try and get as far as you can in the cup. We saw that last year where we got to the quarterfinals against Aston Villa in the FA Cup. We did superbly to get there. We beat a good Burnley side 3-0. And I think you've got to be up for the cup as a Preston fan. We've not got much to grab onto as a. We're not going to be going, surging towards the playoffs this season at all. So, it's great to get match fitness and try to build confidence behind the team, because we've brought in 9 new players this season already. So it's about implementing them, getting them to learn the style, and the more games that we can play at a decent enough level, rather than behind closed doors games, the better. So if we can hopefully beat Wrexham and then see who we can get in the Carabao Cup third round, because notably in the past few years, we've got a decent enough draw. So we've played against City, we've played against Tottenham, Deepdale, etc. And Arsenal, you could even say, in the FA Cup. So we're notably good at getting big teams in the third round. So if we can manage to get further on, get a bit more, funds into the transfer kitty, because we're scraping the bottom of the barrel North End when it comes to transfers. So anything will do. If you're able to get as far as you can and get some more money, I think that's what North End should do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Leicester and are probably in that bracket of to put it in a better terms, put it in real life terms. We're in like the posh all boys school with the rich parents, and obviously the likes of Preston and other clubs. But obviously look at Leicester and probably have a little bit of annoying green-eyed monster, if you will, because obviously I know Leicester have the PSR charges, but realistically, we've just sold a man to Madsen for 20 million. Some would say that's about fair. Some would say that's, but whereas obviously Preston, you get a very talented player who anywhere else would probably go for 15, 20 million to command that price. You're obviously trying to scrape as much together. These cup runs are obviously every team wants to go on a cup run, 100%. But it's obviously more beneficial. Yeah. I did like the fact that you mentioned that there's not going to be a surge for the playoffs, because when we last were in the Championship, you were top of the league for about 7 or 8 weeks, and this was, I've always followed the Championship, and this was back off a few seasons of you surging to the top and then seemingly collapsing all the way down to about 8th to 10th.
Yeah.
Are you just allergic to promotion? Is it just a case of you start getting a summer, you get a summer flu? Do you get a winter cold? Is that and you start falling off?
Yeah, it's embarrassing. It's every season, but notably that was our best chance. You mentioned we were top of the league in November. I'm thinking, if we back the Managerial in January transfer window, maybe we, can, stay around the area of the playoffs. Alex Neil was a fantastic manager for Preston. You can see he's doing really good things at Millwall, who, are notably backing him. And I expect Millwall to be, up there this season in terms of the playoffs or making a playoff push. So, yeah. But every season we seem to get our sandals on in April. But obviously, notably last season, they decided to do it a lot earlier. And after the FA Cup game I mentioned against Aston Villa, they just decided to put the feet up, thinking, we're 13th, 14th. There's not really much to play for this season. Why not kick back? And we went on a horrific run where we came down to the last game of the season needing to pick something up. Luckily, we did against Bristol City 2-2, and West Brom did us a favour against Luton. But it's every season. North End just don't have the mentality, or I'm not even sure if it's the players or it's just the way of the club, but the mentality that you can just throw away your season come April every single year and just pack it in. It's not good enough, and fans have vented their frustrations. But realistically, until something drastically changes, nothing's going to change, and it's just tedious, Brad. I can't lie, and I fully expect North End to probably do something the same this season.
It's funny that I'm just seeing. Can you see my notes on camera? Because my next question to you is, what was, you mentioned Alex Neil, who had a great spell as your manager is now at Millwall. Was that the start of the downfall? What do you think? Where did it start going wrong? Because sometimes with a club, you see it happen and it seems out of the blue from an outsider looking in. With us, obviously the relegation we had, but Leicester fans will tell you, and I'll tell you myself, you could see behind the scenes things were a bit uncomfortable. They weren't all as good as it looked. Even though we were getting European football, you could tell there was a bit of stress there. So the downfall was actually embedded a few seasons beforehand. Was it something where just the managerial change caused it? Where did it actually start with Preston for that season to happen?
What, in terms of the downfall?
Alex.
So in Alex Neil, obviously he came out and notably said, I probably need 2 or 3 players. We were linked with Kiefer Moore back in his prime, and the club didn't want to spend too much. They thought, the squad that you've built here is probably good enough to be able to get you playoffs. You needed 3 or 4 players there. And he got Scott Sinclair on a free. Now, that's not me saying that Scott Sinclair's not a good player. He was a great player for about 18 months, but you needed more. You needed backing, and I feel like what the club have is they have too much restraints in terms of the way they feel like it. We've brought in 9 players this season moving forward. A lot of them obviously are on free transfers because we've had to wholesale. We've sold 2 players. We've purchased a couple, not overly spending too much. I'd probably say our net spend is something about 500,000 if you take everything into proportion. And, he's come out in the media that we've got nothing else to spend and the rest of the window is going to be loans and frees. And you're just thinking...
Sounds like us.
No, but realistically, North End have a shoestring budget of... we're not going to pay someone more than 20,000 a week. You see teams around us like Oxford, they've spent about 6 million. You look at everyone else. Wrexham, obviously, 10 million on. Like it's baffling that you've got these teams around us. I know Wrexham's probably a bit one, but Oxford especially, where they're just throwing money, and you're just thinking, why can't we, throw caution to the wind and back Heckingbottom to, try to build his squad that he wants? And in the end of Alex Neil's tenure, we missed out on playoffs. I know it was the COVID season. We missed out on playoffs. We finished about 8th. And then come back round to the January window in the next season. He had the core of his team who were out of contract in the summer. And they thought, he's not being backed. I want to move on. And then obviously in January, like 3 or 4 big players got removed. I think we had about 7 in and about 5 out. And the core of the team just got stripped. And as a manager, Alex Neil, he's built up the core, he's built up the team, built his squad, and it's just getting torn apart in front of his face. And he just lost motivation. And you could see that scenario. It's the same with Ryan Lowe as well, which was a baffling scenario about how he didn't probably think he was being backed enough in the transfer window last season and then left after 1 game. So it's probably going to be another scenario with Heckingbottom where he feels his worth's probably better suited to a team that will back him. But under this current ownership, I just can't see, us putting any money behind him, which is sad, to be fair, because he's a good manager.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some experience. He's been thrown into the deep end in a few jobs that he's had in his time there. I mean, you mentioned Wrexham there, saying they'd spent a few bits. They wasted 2 million on Connor Cody because they're paying him to do exactly what we did for a few seasons, which is sit in TalkSport studio. So, and at least you're not throwing money away like that. And he also took Danny Ward, who, if you saw any of us last season when he was in goal, it was the best horror movie ever because he's just absolutely woeful. Cue him go and have the best season now ever at Wrexham. But yeah, it must be a tough situation. I mean, that cup run, did that inevitably end up being a distraction to what led to you maybe, like you said, getting the sandals on, you're mid-table at that point? Do you think you just run out of steam, or do you feel like your players took the eye off the ball and just felt, well, we've done the job we needed to? 40 points was where well, we know in the Premier League, less than that now keeps you safe. The Championship, it's usually about the 50-point mark you need to be just to be 100%.
Yeah.
Do you feel that they thought they were projecting towards that, and that's what it is, or was there a little bit going on outside?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I think in the players' mindsets, we got to the FA Cup quarter-final and then get knocked out. There's nothing really to play for in that essence, and they probably thought, we're probably safe at this scenario, and just took the foot off the gas. They seem to every year when there's not really a lot to play for, and you see obviously Ryan Lowe's tenure last year. We lost 5 on the bounce going into the new season, and then lost against Sheffield United, which obviously made him leave his job, which was 6 losses in a row, and then take off last season with Heckingbottom. I can't remember how many losses we had in a row, but we didn't win in almost double figures, and it was really, really touchy come to the end of it. So they just take the foot off the gas. I don't understand why they do it. They must just put the feet up and know that they're fine. That realistically, the squad last season, you got League One players playing for a Championship side, knowing they're safe and knowing they'll probably get a new contract and rewarded for mediocrity. So, if you're a bang average footballer and you want a happy lifestyle of getting a Championship contract on the decent wage, you'll come to Preston and just stick your feet up after March, April time.
Yeah, it does feel like that's unfortunately, sadly, where the world of football is going. If 30 grand in the 90s was paying Arsenal players and that players in the Premier League. It wasn't cutting the cloth in the Division 1 days, but now, like you said, 25, 30 grand a week. I would happily kick a ball for Preston North End, 30 grand a week, if that's what they're going to pay me. With all that being said, I know you mentioned that you're not expecting to be back up there with the playoff push, like you were for a few seasons in that running. Are you then expecting to have another struggle of a season, or have you seen stuff throughout the pre-season? And I know it's only one in the big games, really. I mean, you look at that cup game as half a game with the changes you made. Yeah. Are you expecting to see another bit of a struggle, or are you thinking mid-table, or can you see a push for that playoffs that you've been so allergic to?
No. There's no way in a cat's hell chance we'll see North End pushing towards playoffs this season.
I love how he's just dismissed that straight away. Like, no.
We're not good enough. The players that we have brought in, I know we brought in 9 players, but there's probably 3 or 4 that are properly, a decent Championship level. For me, there still needs to be about 3 more quality players brought into the door for us to stand a chance of, making ourselves a established mid-table side against this season. There's been a lot of talk. Obviously, there's been pundits that have predicted us to be relegated. I could see us in that area and struggling, actually. So it's all dependent on what we do in the rest of the transfer window. Currently, as we stand, and if we, went into the rest of the season with this current squad, I predicted us to finish about 21st, so just outside the relegation zone. But obviously, dependent on, if we're able to bring in a couple more of attacking recruits, that's going to obviously allow me to push us higher up. I'm the most pessimistic North End fan ever sometimes, but realistically, I think our category could go from 21st. Well, you could get relegated. We've got a chance of probably staying between 23rd and 14th. And I think if we're able to recruit properly, we'll probably be slap bang in the middle of there and probably about 17th. So it's all exciting here at Deepdale, honestly, Brad. I tell you.
Oh yeah, you've made it sound like a right barrel
Yeah.
of Preston up at the moment. But hey, look, sometimes you need to just kind of have a few seasons. Some Leicester fans have, before this season started, obviously we still, a bit like you, we want the window to shut so we know where we are. We also want the PSR thing to be given a straightforward answer, whether it's a hefty fine or we do get a point deduction. But we also wouldn't we wouldn't mind, as long as there's progress in there and it's a decent season. A couple of seasons in the Championship. I know obviously you don't want to go into the mill of it. There's one team, and I'm sorry for those fans because I'm going to have to do a preview with one of them at some point, but I call Stoke City Championship FC because ever since they had that stint in the Premier League, but in between, before and after that, they are the definition of Championship side. That they don't ever really seem to be up there too often, and they're just kind of like yourselves, a little bit mid-table. You mentioned him earlier. I mentioned the ability to sell a player, whether we wanted to or not, for 20+ million. Again, the fee may have varied, I don't know. Madsen left a few weeks ago for Leicester City, obviously a mainstay for us in our promotion back from the Championship 2 seasons ago, and despite the harrowing efforts on the pitch, he was by far and away our best player. We probably knew he was going to go. He's one of our biggest assets. His move may have actually stopped a few of us needed to be sold. If the rumours about Canute's release clause fee are true and Fatawu turning down Everton straight up are true. But we had Daniel Iverson, who was on loan at you guys last season, and you guys raved a lot of reviews about him, to the point now that you've obviously made him your number one. From a Preston fans view, looking at Leicester's situation, I don't know. I wouldn't know why you would have last season, apart from to laugh at our pain. But if you saw Stolarczyk play last season in Premier League, Leicester fans, myself included, would have been absolutely fine with Stolarczyk being the number one, which it looks like he's going to be. But Asmir Begovic is now the backup. And Chris has said this before, and I see where he's coming from. Would we have been better off keeping Iverson, which I'm sure would have annoyed you Preston fans, having him as the number 2, and then maybe rotating the pair of them and using the season as a bit of an experiment? And then if it doesn't work out, you guys get him. Have Leicester goofed up? And you've already mentioned he had a great game. How happy are you to have a goalkeeper of Daniel Iverson's calibre at Preston?
Yeah, well, it weren't last season, and it weren't
the season before, wasn't it?
Yeah, it weren't even the season before. It was the season before that.
God, it felt like last season. I forgot it was. Yeah.
No, we had him on. Had him on loan, I believe. It was either 21-22 or 22-23. But we had him on loan for 18 months. So he actually joined when Alex Neil left, I believe. I may be wrong, but he came in, and by far, within that 18 months, he was the best goalkeeper I've seen at Deepdale since Jordan Pickford was here for a couple of months. So the quality was there, and I know North End then at that time went to yourselves and wanted to buy him permanently, and we were quoted a figure. I think you wanted 4 or 5 million at the time, and then obviously the next 2 years he stayed really within Leicester for 18 months. I know he went out on loan to Stoke within that period, but I feel like Iverson's wanted to be a number one somewhere. He's wanting to go somewhere where he's cherished. And I think Leicester actually offered him a new deal. I'm not too sure on that. I know Everton did offer him a deal as a backup, but he rejected Everton to want to become a number one. And obviously he's come to us on a free, and I think he was probably one of the best free, transfers you could pick up. A huge upgrade on Freddie Woodman from last season. It's really good to have a keeper who's commanding. His shot stopping is up there with one of the best in the league. The one thing that I would notably have mentioned in terms of Iverson that was making me ponder a bit was his distribution was fairly poor over the past, the 18 months at North End. I know His distribution wasn't the greatest at Stoke, but he hasn't played. And then going into QPR, you're thinking, what's going to happen here? And he's pulled out probably one of the best assists from a goalkeeper you'll see in the Championship this season. He's pinged it about 70 yards right onto Osmaich's path, and he's just dinked it over the keeper. But yeah, really happy with Dan Iverson back at the club. He's at the right age for a goalkeeper as well. We've got him on a 4-year deal. So I'm really looking forward to him, staying as Preston North End's number one for, the next 4 years, which is good. But do I think possibly for, Premier League standard and Premier League aspirations, Daniel Iverson is the keeper that you need? Probably not. But is he someone that's, of Championship quality, is going to win you points within the Championship and, keep clean sheets? Definitely. So maybe not the standard of Leicester where their aspirations want to be in terms of pushing for a number one, but definitely at North End's level.
That is a real interesting perspective on it, because there was a lot of fans, especially last season when Madsen got injured and Stolarczyk was out at that point till December. He'd obviously been the number 2 to Madsen in the Championship. We had that awful period of games. I think we played like Brentford, Wolves and Newcastle and got thumped all 3 games. I think there was 3+ goals in each game. We got absolutely thumped, and we were scratching our heads as to why Danny Ward had been given the nod over Iverson. I mean, then again, when Ruud van Nistelrooy was your manager, anything made you scratch your heads. I mean, I can see where you're coming from, because the distribution thing was something that, we had a little bit of a gripe about Kasper. A phenomenal goalkeeper, definitely of Premier League level, will forever be remembered as one of the top goalkeepers of our club's history. I'd imagine, aside from Banks and Chilton, he's probably in the top 5 goalkeepers. Some might not, but it'd be very few and far between. But the one thing we wanted to kind of have from a goalkeeper that we could have, if pick one thing you could get better from your old keeper, it was distribution. And Iverson couldn't keep the ball in play for Toffee, and then he goes and does that for you guys against QPR.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you taking?
Yeah, I mean, for the thing is with Iverson, he probably kicked the ball out of play 3 or 4 times previous to that, and then obviously you're not anticipating anything, and he goes and does that. So, if he can improve on his distribution, then he'll be a top keeper. But it's probably why he didn't get a game at Leicester, especially if you've got managers that are wanting to play out from the back. I know Maresca was quite keen on that when he was at his tenure. So he's really not a player that you want, trying to play slick and, at the back and wanting to play, little passes to the centre halves or, into the centre mids. He's not that type of player. So if you've got a goalkeeper, play to his strengths. And if that's, keeping the ball out the back of the net by some superb saves, if it means that he's going to have to volley the ball into Rose Ed on the sideline 4 or 5 times per game, it is what it is. If he was great at distribution, he wouldn't have signed for North End. That's the way that I see it. So, I think he's a great keeper, but and a really good one for North End's level. But anyone higher than that, probably not.
I do love the fact that earlier you said you're the most pessimistic Preston fan. And you've just completely downplayed your ability to keep hold of a goalkeeper who you clearly feel, and us as Leicester fans clearly feel he deserved to be a first-team goalkeeper.
Yeah,
that's why when he left, it wasn't celebrated with joy like when Danny Ward left. But in terms of, we were happy for Iverson to go and get first-team football because he really did deserve it. I see your points in what you're saying as well. Maybe Championship is his glass ceiling that he'll obviously want to try and burst through. And obviously, if he can burst through that with you, it'll only benefit you as a club, whether that's for helping you get promoted or at least building you back up to leave you in good stead. If he does go after 4 years, that'd be great. Now then, I didn't get a chance to do this on the Sheffield Wednesday preview, mainly because there was a lot of talking points to have with Sheffield, i.e. with their situation that's still going on. And also because I didn't have the idea until about 3.5 hours ago, when I thought I'm going to do this to make it interesting. Because of course, all the best laid plans happen last minute, don't they? We are going to do the Preston 5 because I'm so good at naming things. It's just a bit of fun, and if people like it, and if this goes well, I'm going to keep it going forward with other previews. It is 5 true or false things. Now, I will 100% just judge you as a fan if you get even one wrong, but I'm sure no one else will. It's one of them. Some of these questions, you might be like, I wasn't even born then. I haven't got a clue. That's fine. Some of them I've tried to keep easy. You should know. I feel like most fans will, but even if you don't, it's all for a bit of fun. Yeah. Are you ready for your unprepared quiz that you had no preparation for?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Brilliant. Like I said, it's just 5 questions, and apologies if I've gotten wrong. All complaints can be filed to Wikipedia for my information source.
Right, okay.
Here we go. Question 1. According to Wikipedia, Deepdale is the oldest football ground in the world that consistently has been used by a league side.
That's true.
He's gone true. I wish I let Chris know so I could have this true or false thing right. That is very true. Correct. You got off to the perfect start. I did not know that. It's a very interesting one. Okay, are you ready for the next one? This one again, no pressure, but you should know this. Deepdale is the only home ground Preston have ever played on.
True.
He said that one easy, but he's gone with true. And you're right to do so. Some clubs don't always start at the ground they're at now, and obviously themselves have played at 3. We started Victoria Park. See, I'm not anything you can say. I'm not keep my own knowledge on it. Okay, number 3. Preston's mascot is Larry the Lamb.
No, false. Deepdale Duck.
See, the whole thing about the duck and the lamb, I researched it up, and I just wonder if anyone else would have thought because you've got a lamb on your badge. The namesakes, but no, very well done. I didn't catch out with that one. That was my catch out one. I thought some people might go, I don't know. Okay, question 4. Preston originally formed as a rugby team known as North End before they were adopted as Preston North End Football Club.
False.
Bonus points. What were they then, or were they ever anything else? Do you know?
I don't believe. I'll be honest. I don't believe so. I think realistically, North End are so basic with our information. The reason we're called Preston North End is probably because Deepdale's at the North End of Preston.
It's. I didn't research that, but I know why you call Deepdale. It's something to do with rivers, but that's not a question, by the way. However, you're right, it's false, but you were originally a cricket team. It was as North End, and then you became North End Preston, and I think you became Preston North End.
Yeah.
I thought you might get that right, but you might not have known the reason for it.
Yeah. I can't believe it was cricket.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I threw that in because I'm a cricket fan, and it annoys Chris that I bring cricket up as a reference. Now then, you might know this one because you have mentioned your transfers before. Again, this is euros on transfermarket.com. So again, the price of what you paid may be a little bit off. You might flag me up on the price I'm about to go on here. The 2.5 million fee paid for centre forward Ozamajic. I don't butcher that pronunciation. His striker you talked about earlier is signed in the 2023-24 is a club record transfer fee.
It is, yeah. And the previous before that was David Healy in 2001.
See, Transfer Market has it as Melia from Liverpool. Yeah, interesting. So it's a good job I didn't go for second one, isn't it? Because he's second on the list, but David Healy was also on there.
Yeah. I know. We paid quite a bit for Mella, but he wasn't above David Healy, because I know there was a massive thing about, we've still not broken our transfer record when we paid for Mella, and then 20 years later we'd still not broken our record for David Healy, and you're like, it's 2021, lads. Come on, spend a bit of money, and then we paid for Osmarich, which ultimately has broken our record. So, final.
Yeah. I tried to pronounce his name properly, and I wish I could have picked a different. I was hoping for a name like Steve Jobs to have come up for him, but it was that.
I do apologise.
That's right. I wasn't trying to pronounce his first name either. Gordon. That was hard enough to say. No. I'll just write his last name down. But well done. You got 5 out of 5. Yeah, you were not fooled, or you didn't slip up on anyone.
No.
It would have been funny if someone in the comments had thought maybe Larry the Lamb, because probably shouldn't use such a generic name. But when I was trying to think of one, I was like, I actually have to do this before 7 o'clock, Brad. Think of a name that goes with Lamb, and Larry the Lamb it was. Yeah. Why the Deepdale Duck though? Do you know why that is? That's because it was something that I saw, and it was a bit.
No, to be fair, I don't actually know. I think they had to think of something that was. I really don't know. I'm guessing it's something to do with it's a synonym kind of thing, where it's like Deepdale, something that goes with Deepdale. If it was like, it's not going to be like Deepdale Elephant.
Like Doug Dimmadome. If you know Fairly Odd Parents, I'm young enough to have known that show. But if you know, that's a wild reference.
But I mean, they could have probably gone for a lamb. That would probably make more sense as a North End. Being on our badge, being the main thing of Preston. I know it goes Latin about Principus. That's what PP stands for, is Proud Preston, but in Latin. With a lamb on it, and obviously that's the main thing about Preston. So it'd make more sense to be a lamb. We'll just have a duck instead.
Yeah, well, when I was searching up these questions and the one about Deepdale, it did say that the stadium name came from something to do with a bank going into a river, a burnt bank going into a river. So maybe the idea was to link the name of the stadium towards a mascot. I just didn't know if you had maybe. But it is out there, isn't it? Because it'd be like us having a fox on our badge and then calling our mascot Leafy Liam, or got nothing to do with football. It doesn't seem it matches up to the club or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, very interesting. But yeah, again, well done. You got 5 out of 5, and maybe I need to make these questions harder for my next guest, who's going to be a Charlton on. I've made a bit of an error here, but we're going to talk about last time out. Now, we know, well, we don't know because I haven't got it written down here. We obviously played each other twice in the championship season, but you were the unfortunate memory side, because you'll be forever known as the side where Jamie Vardy scored I believe it was his last championship goal, and we went on to win the title there at Deepdale. I'm going to love your stadium name now. It was brilliant. I mean, was you there for it? And how was your feeling? I mean, obviously, but then you were faded away from your playoff challenge that you're having. Was it kind of like, oh well, if they win it, I'll enjoy the moment with them, or were you kind of like, oh, I'm sick of this team, I'm glad they're going out? Because some fans are a bit hit and miss. Neutral fans.
Yeah, I mean. Obviously, there was nothing to play for as a North End fan at that stage, and obviously, we're going to win the league. I mean, as a fan, you always want your team to win and always want them to do well. But going into the game, I had to remember back which one it was, and Vardy's goal. I know it was the last one he scored, but oh my gosh, it's laughable defending, because. Really, I think he probably could have had about 10 seconds to decide what he wanted to do, and just decided to smash it in the back of the net. With North End, when it comes to those games, that notably the players don't care. The fans have just, it relays onto the fans, and watching a team. And I know Maresca was playing some superb football in the Championship for Leicester at the time, so. It was good to actually see, North End come up against a good side. It's just a shame that obviously when we did play, the players had the sandals up. So realistically, I'm hoping when it comes into the game on Saturday, we've still got something to grab onto. It's the start of the season. We've got something to for. We're at Deepdale. Fingers crossed, the fans will be up for it. hopefully the players will be a bit more bang up for it. I know there's been a bit of scrutiny recently. So yeah, it's one of those where it was laughable to watch as a North End fan, but it's also good, watching, someone, especially Jamie Vardy's, getting his club promoted to the Premier League once again.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great occasion as Leicester fans, and we kind of had the same party-ish atmosphere. It got to that point because we just gone over a bad period ourselves. I think some team called Leeds falling apart. United were coming for us apparently. I mean, they've done it now. They have finally come for us and overtaken us. But they took a season or two to get there, didn't they? Yeah. So that was funny. You mentioned obviously the game on Saturday. That's why we're doing this preview, funny enough. What can Leicester expect in terms of lineup, how you're going to go about the game, and let us know who's the danger man, apart from Daniel Iverson in goal. Who would be your danger man for Leicester to watch out for?
Yeah, so in terms of obviously the system formation, North End notably play three at the back. We play a 3-5-1-1 realistically when we're out of possession. But he also started play a few things around in pre-season where in possession we then transition either into a 4-2-2, 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1. So you'll see bits and throws of the wing backs notably pushing up when we're in possession, but we like him to drop back in, kind of create a low block in terms of, when we come defensively. So it might be a bit of a struggle for Leicester, obviously, to first initially break North End down because we brought in, quite a few players, but notably for the defenders, we brought in Thierry Small, who's a wing back. We brought in, Odell Afire. Lewis Gibson came in January, who's done great. We brought in Vucevic, I still can't pronounce his name, and obviously Daniel Iverson in net. So it's a totally changed, back goalkeeper realistically from last season. So that'll be hard for obviously Leicester to break down. We normally have two sitting midfielders in front of that to properly, grind your gears as a Leicester fan. Alan McCann, notably there, and either Ben Whiteman or Stefan Fordarson, although Fordarson has been an absolute stinker recently, so I don't expect him to play. In terms of the danger men, realistically, it's going to have to be the number 28 up to Militon Osmaic. You might have seen his goal at the weekend. If given the opportunity and if given the chance, you'll probably put it in the back of the net. There's a statistic actually I saw last season where, in terms of the chances conversion rate for Militon Osmaic, I believe he was either first or second in the league. Which, fair enough, he probably didn't hit targets in previous seasons because of suspensions and being a right old. He's got everything going for him under the sun off the field. But in terms of on the field, if you give someone like Osmaic a chance, a decent chance, it ends up in the back of the net. And, he is a quality, striker in terms of that. So if given the opportunity and if given the chance, then he's definitely someone to look out for. So, I mean, if you see him breaking that back line, just waltzing past Wout Fass or something, and he's getting in behind, and it may spell trouble. But I fully expect Leicester to control the game, and I think that obviously, although North End's got a new back line, I think in terms of the players that Leicester have, they should have enough quality to be able to break us down. And when we do go 1-0 down and open up, he's going to obviously leave us more, unprotected at the back, and that's when the heavens might start to open. So I'm hoping we can hold on for as long as possible and then maybe nick one, but realistically, that's not in my mindset.
Well, there you go, folks. From the most positive Preston fan in the world, he's so confident his team could nick 1-0. He also thinks the Evans could open up and they could lose 3 or 4.
No chance.
Well, which leads me on. Go on. No, go on. What are you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I was going to give a prediction, but I'm sure that's going to be your next question.
You're me to it. Yeah, I've told you, stop looking at my notes. Get your own homework. Stop copying.
So I apologise.
These shows
if I'm going to be realistic, if I'm going to be realistic, I think 3-1 Leicester.
Oh, he's gone 3-1. You know, I always say this, you know, obviously I want my team to win, but I try and see it as fair as I can. And to be honest with you, under Maresca, this scoreline came up a lot in the early stages. And obviously with the Huddersfield draw, I think we kind of got to just put that to the back of the mind. It wasn't an experiment gone wrong, but I think in this division with how many games you play, sometimes you play 7 or 8 youngsters and you get through.
Yeah.
Sometimes you play your youngsters and you go out on penalties. Sometimes your name's Middlesbrough and you lose 4-0. It happens. You know, I'm just trying to make me feel better, all right? I'm trying to make us Leicester fans feel better about going out to Huddersfield on penalties, all right? But I've gone Preston North End 1 because we always love to concede a goal. And I think we'll win 2-1. So both gone for Leicester wins, but I've been a bit kinder to you. So that is interesting. Yeah. Ollie, you've been great. I would wish you the best of luck for Saturday, but that'd be a big barefaced lie. But after Saturday, I hope you guys have a successful season. And who knows, maybe get into the playoffs. Just let everybody know before we end the show, where can people find you and tell us all about yourselves and give yourselves a shout out, mate?
Yeah, so we're the Butterpie name for a podcast and not a food one. You'll find us on all reputable streaming sites, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or X/Twitter, where we might be moaning about the game. So obviously, if you're a Leicester fan and you want to hear a bit of saltiness next weekend after your notable win at Deepdale, you can tune in probably about Wednesday time. It depends when we choose to record. But if you are making the trip, what I probably do ask is you do try a butter pie at Deepdale. It is a Preston delicacy. Let us know what you think. I mean, realistically, it's cholesterol in a pie. It's not an awful lot going on. It's short crust pastry, potato, onion, and butter. But it's a taste sensation. You can get some gravy and get some brown sauce on it, and it's a Preston delicacy. So if Leicester obviously don't cheer you up, hopefully a butter pie will. And give it a go and let us know what you think. There you go, folks. If you're not going to go to enjoy the football, enjoy the butter pie, a delicacy. Enjoy the pie, a delicacy in Preston. So there you go, travelling fans. If you are going to the game tomorrow afternoon, then you know what you're eating. You've got food sorted. Ollie, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on for our preview. Guys, Ollie's links to the channel should be in the description from Chris. Go and check it out. Go and show him love and support. Go and tune into their, hopefully, like he said, salty review of the game midweek. After that, go and just watch him when they're winning games. That's fine. And cheer him on a bit. Again, Ollie, thanks for coming on. Well done on your 5 out of 5 top marks. I think I'll have to make these harder going forward. Maybe get a leaderboard up. And like I said, after Saturday, all the best for next season. Take care, everybody. Yeah, you too, Brad.
Cheers, buddy. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.